For 13 years, he ran Fidelity's Magellan Fund with average annual returns of nearly 30%. From 1977 to 1990, it grew from $18 million in assets to $14 billion in assets. He retired at the age of 46. Since then, he has dedicated his time and his resources to giving away a large portion of his personal fortune. I'm pleased to have him back at this table. Welcome.
Hey,
now, see, we had this wonderful interview. And I would occasionally say, whatever happened to Peter Lynch? It's one of those things. And whatever happened to Peter Lynch is my question.
Well, it's funny. People said he'll start his own fund. He'll do a hedge fund. I said, no.
I know
I've had enough of it because
he wants to do it all on his own. He doesn't need the great Fidelity, as a
I have a very small transmission as 1 gear overdrive. That's it.
Yes,
so you can't sort of run a fund. I had lovely wife Carolyn, 3 children.
Right.
I wanted to do other things, so I've now worked very part-time with younger analysts. So it's been my father died at 46. So
and was that the reason 46? Or
I guess it's 6 you might. He took sick when he was 43, died at 46. Maybe I was going to live to 146, but I said, I love the job, love the company, but I worked every Saturday for 11 years. I just want to spend more time with my wife and family.
And you're constantly on the road because you believed in being there. In fact, you would take her with you.
Yes, that's right.
And family with you because, in search of understanding the company.
Correct. That's right.
Yeah. And so what have you learned since then? I mean, do you look back and say, oh, I stopped too early? B, I stopped too late?
It's lucky. It was a perfect time. It was an absolutely perfect time. I was able to see all my 3 children grow up, and now they're all married, and spend time with my grandchildren. It's fabulous.
Tell me about your passions.
Well, I think my wife and I, Carolyn, her father was a high school principal. Her principal. She grew up in rural Delaware. Yeah. I went to public schools, and we have the best colleges and universities in the world. No one would doubt that.
Right.
But K through 12, we're not that hot.
No.
And somebody born in America today is less likely to graduate from high school than their parents. That's remarkable. Yeah. That's not true in Europe.
And falling behind in scores on math and science and engineering.
And also, 25 years ago, if you were a dropout, you could work a lathe, work a press, work a injection bowling machine. There were lots of jobs. You didn't even have to speak English. Today, it's test equipment, assembly equipment. There's low-level jobs at fast food restaurants and at hospitals. But if you want to get a decent job that's challenging and fun, you have to be able to use a computer. You have to be able to speak in English. All these manuals are all they're not in Creole, they're not in Portuguese, they're not in all these Spanish, they're in English. So today being a dropout is a tragedy, and it shouldn't be happening.
And once you lose a step, then you lose a second step and third step and the fourth step. And
literacy, there's an amazing correlation, I think, of a couple million people in prison, like 85% of them are illiterate. It's not their fault.
Here's the thing for me. There are people, you, and so many people I know, some deceased, some in youth, but all passionate about education. Passionate. All have resources. All have a voice. Why aren't we fixing this?
Well, I think, first of all, the greatest issue is recognizing the problem. I don't think this problem was clear 10, 20 years ago. I mean, I think when World War II started, our army was smaller than the Netherlands. I mean, we didn't realize how bad Hitler was, how terrible the Nazi Party was. We have to recognize the problem. I think we're getting to the phase now we say there's 45 million kids in public school, probably half of them, 2/3 of them get a decent education, the rest are getting a not so good education. That is it's an awful, not only a problem, it's a tragedy. So I think recognizing the problem, and people like yourselves are leaders in that, just getting the word off, this is not acceptable, this is bad for everybody. That's the first part. That's starting to happen now. And now there's several things that are happening now to make it better. And I think that's very positive.
But are you convinced that we have the will to do what's necessary? The will?
Well, I think if more people recognize the problem and say, then they say we can do something about it, then things will happen. I think we're between phases 1 and phase 2. Examples like Teach for America. I mean, there's many examples like national mentoring. There are programs that are starting to make a difference. You can really see and people recognize that really works. And people want to invest, like in the stock market, they want to invest in the companies doing well, not the companies doing badly. Yeah. So if they say, this is a waste, why should I invest it? It's hopeless. You have to take away that hopeless and say, we can make this a lot better. And there's examples in Massachusetts, we have these charter schools, and we have some district schools, so the public schools, they're now top in the state against some of the suburban schools. So these things work. They really work.
They do, but not all the results of all charter schools is as good
well, some
as
of the
you
early,
might expect.
You're exactly right, but some of the early ones weren't well planned, they weren't well thought out, but the ones now, plus some district schools, we're talking public schools. Yeah. There's a program called the Achievement Network that does a testing program. It's now in 300,000 students have it today. This should spread all over the country. It's something Carolyn did all the research on, my wife, and it's a great thing. They basically test the child 4 times a year, a quick test. And instead of at the end of the year saying this student is falling behind or the class is falling behind, they say the reason Johnny's not doing well, he can't add a quarter to 5/8, or Susie doesn't understand adverbs. It helps the teacher 4 times a year to find out how to help the student rather than find at the end of the year. Then it goes to another teacher next year. There are things like that are happening right now, and it helps the teacher a lot.
And we're just beginning to understand how to use technology too. For a long time it was there, and we did not know how to use it.
Right.
And then we're coming on.
The Khan Academy is a great example.
Exactly, perfect.
And then there's the importance of the principal.
Yeah.
That's something we really focus on. Because my wife, father's high school principal. Imagine the principal spends a lot of time on the boiler or a leaky roof. These are not academics. I mean, it's such an incredible job, and there's no peers to talk to. I mean, who else do you speak to? It's a lonely, hard job, and it's a difficult job. So we're working to. We started a leadership academy at Boston College to work with principals and aspiring principals to help them get the best methods, the best tools. They're the key person in America, high school principal. Then the teacher's second most important. Yeah. They're the leaders. When you talk CEOs of companies, the Jack Welch's of the world, the Lee Iacocca's, that's a principal.
Yeah.
That's what they have to do.
Take for tangent for a second. Jack Welch, Lee Iacocca. What is it they have? You would go around and do a self-analysis of companies, and you would look for things that you could identify with and know that they had the potential to grow, and they had a culture to grow, and they had a plan to grow. What do great managers do?
Well, there's 2 types. You have Fred Smith, who comes up with an idea called Federal Express. Then he had to grow it, and that's really tricky. Sometimes people can just do the idea part. He did all the parts. Then there's Lee Iacocca, had to turn around at trouble with Chrysler, and even more challenging, a giant company like General Electric, to make something good better. I mean, that's really hard. So all these people basically were problem solvers, and they had to manage people. And one of the things that surprises people, they don't even understand the definition of management. It's getting things done through others. It's a lot easier to do something yourself. If you have somebody else do it, and lots of people, obviously you're managing people, and sometimes you have to encourage them, sometimes you have to push them a little hard.
Inspire,
people
motivate,
it's hard.
encourage.
But you have to understand what they want, you have to work with them, you have to explain yourself, you have to set goals, and you have to be a leader yourself, and you have to put a lot of effort into it. And you have to make mistakes. And there's a real amazing difference between being persistent and being stubborn.